before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask Angela to do a roll call for the quorum.
Abadili,
Present.
Foster,
Present.
Hearn,
Present.
Lee,
Present.
Tangney present, Sampu,
Not here yet.
okay. Administrator Darcy Carley,
Present.
Staff Member Kim Kavanaugh,
Present.
Staff Member Katie Pollock,
Present.
and Agent Ed Hoops.
Present.
Okay, we're here. Good, Tom, and I'll check when Pete signs in.
Thank you. And we have a quorum. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at 3 p.m. for the applications of Thomas and Susan Hamilton, Beach Club of Craigville, Inc., James A. and Gail C. Redley, Joseph Jenkins, trustee, Bluff Point 1999, Trust Number 2. This hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email request to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this meeting. Hearing none. This afternoon's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisements. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participation. The Conservation Commission's public hearings will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed by the governor on March 29, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definitions Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 817-7734-5168 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. 3rd, the public can also email the comments to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. This afternoon, we have 3 extension requests. The first one is MCCM Realty Trust, SE3-5914. This is a first request for 1 year. That's Denise?
Yeah, sorry about that. Video is coming through. Hi, everyone. Dennis Bertuna, Wilkinson Ecological. Basically, we are looking to extend the order of conditions at 910 Main Street so that we could have an additional year for continued invasive plant control on the coastal bank and within the project areas. In addition, we would owe the commission an additional year of monitoring. That would be for 2025. So basically, in doing so, we would be back on track, and our hope would be to file for compliance sometime Q4 of next year.
Denise, before I open up, normally we do a 3 years extensions, right, Darcy?
Correct.
So if we do 3 years, if you finish earlier, you can request a COC early. Is that okay?
Yeah, no opposition.
Okay. Any question from the commissioner? John?
You're on mute, John.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Luis. Just a quick update on what the project was, as I recall it, I think, but what is the status of it? How is it going so far? Where are you on the replanting, on the planting plan?
Sure. So the invasive removal took place in the spring of last year. So this is rounding out the second full summer season of invasive plant control from the summertime season. It's taking a little bit of time to have an effective kind of control, but really we're seeing a more functional eradication of the target species and greater native establishment in the project areas. Planting also occurred in the fall of last year. So
Status of those plants.
largely alive. This past summer, obviously, it was pretty difficult with drought, but the temporary above ground irrigation systems were installed prior or post planting.
So the bank appears to be safe as of now, stabilized?
Stable, yes. Yeah, and the temporary erosion control is still in place. Obviously, that's breaking down as it's designed to do, but the native grasses through our Cape Cod meadow mix is establishing.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Louise?
So the next one, the next extension request is the project that really kind of went hand in hand with the one we're talking about now. So are both of them in adjacent areas, within the two properties?
Yeah, both of them are really kind of seen to go in tandem. It was bifurcated for two orders of conditions based on the fact that there are two properties, two separate owners. So yeah, essentially us requesting the extension for 910 Main Street and 33 Oyster at the same time is by design.
Right, so they're both planting issues.
Establishment and just invasive species control, in addition to us owing the commission the third monitoring report in 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Same question that I would ask about the current stability of the banks.
The bank at 33 Oyster has come a long way, a lot faster. There's a lot more native species that were pre-existing there. So the stability is much further along, I would say, than 910s.
Thank you.
Any more question from the commissioner? None. Could I have a motion to approve the extension request for the MCCM Realty Trust for 3 years?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's 5. We have a
Can you,
quorum.
I just want to clarify, that's for 3 years.
Yeah, that's for 3 years.
Yep.
The second extension request is 33 Oyster Place Realty Trust, SE3-5915. Again, this is 1 year request, but that we typically do it 3 years. And Denise kind of mentioned that is there. And let Denise talk first. I know we talk about it.
Yeah, the 3-year extension would be
Okay.
great for this as well. No concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any question from the commissioner? None. Could I have a motion to approve the extension request for 3 years for 33 Oysters Place Realty Trust?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you all.
The third extension request is William and Shelley Lawson, SE3-5919. This is the first request for 3 years. And I don't think Keith is going to be here. And typically we usually allow for that 3 years of extension requests. Any follow-up, Darcy, on this?
No, just that he has described in the narrative in the first paragraph that there were delays due to the complications from COVID, first phase of the land management plan, and the restoration plan dated February 21st. Actually, sorry. One was August 27th, 21, and February 21st, 22nd was started. February 23, planted in July 24. They installed the irrigation, and they would like to continue monitoring and maintenance efforts.
So this is more of the landscaping issues. Any question from the commissioner? None. Could I have a motion to approve the extension request for 3 years for Williams and Shirley Lawson?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Tangney. Aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you. The next one is certificate of compliance. We have 3 applications. The first one is SE 35734, Bernard LeBeau and Barbara J. Guilfoyle. This is 1199 Creekview Beach Road, Sanderville. Katie?
Thanks, Tom. Let me just get this all set up. Oh. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, it's coming. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Hi, I am Catherine Pollock. I'm the Conservation Assistant for Barnstable, and I'm here to give the staff recommendation for the Certificate of Compliance request for SE 35734 at 1199 Craigville Beach Road in Centerville. So the project was originally heard on November 5th of 2019, and an order of conditions was issued December 4th of that year. The applicant and property owners are Bernard LeBeau and Barbara J. Guilfoyle, and they were represented by John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering and Consulting. And the proposed project was to construct a boardwalk and patio. If you look to the right, that photo is the property before any work was conducted. So this is the approved plan. If we're looking right here, this is the proposed patio, some associated steps. All throughout here is the proposed mitigation area, which included Phragmites removal and, excuse me, invasive species removal. And then all throughout this area is the proposed boardwalk. It was 167 feet by 4 with a T-zone at the end that was 12 by 4 feet. There's some notes over here that include remnant wood posts. Previously, there was a boardwalk that was installed there, and some of the wood posts remained. There was a note that if there should be an attempt to remove the posts, there should be an attempt to remove the posts, but if that was found to be too disturbed, they would just be cut at grade with prior staff approval from the conservation staff. So we received a certificate of compliance request from John O'Day, September 4th of 2024, and I did my visit the following day. If we look in the lower left-hand corner, that's the same photo from before any work was conducted. And then on the right-hand side, that is after the property after the work was conducted. So right along here is the mitigation area. This is the patio, the associated steps. For this recommendation, we're going to be focusing on the boardwalk area. I think it's important to note too that in John's letter for the request, he had said that he noted the deviations I'm about to discuss, and that it was to his understanding that due to those deviations that the certificate of compliance would be denied and would be moved to enforcement. So the first deviation was the boardwalk was supposed to be installed at 4 feet minimum above the salt marsh. As you can see from the photos in the upper right-hand corner, it was installed right above the marsh. You can see it kind of right on top of the vegetation. I took a rough measurement and found it to be roughly 1 foot 9 inches above the ground, which is less than half the height that it was approved for. Moving forward, there was supposed to be fiberglass grating installed over the salt marsh, providing a minimum of 65% light penetration, which was also on the order conditions number 23. As you can see from these 3 photos, no fiberglass grating was installed. So this is me standing at the house facing the T-zone portion of the boardwalk. This is me standing at the T-zone portion of the boardwalk facing the house. And this is the T-zone. You can see it's just wood planking. Moving forward, the spacing between the planks themselves was supposed to be 3/4 inch minimum spacing, which was also order of condition number 22. I found that it was close to 1/2 inch. So deck plank spacing shall be at least 3/4 inch. Again, it was close to 1/2 inch. And lastly, so for the T-zone portion of the boardwalk, it was proposed and approved at 12 feet by 4. And I don't have a measurement, or I don't have a photo with the tape measure measuring the width, but John had cited this in his letter as well, that it ended up being 12 by 8 feet. So that 4 feet width was extended to 8 feet. So just to go over again, the boardwalk was approved at 4 feet minimum above the salt marsh, and that was closer to 1 foot 9 inches, less than half of that. There was supposed to be at least 3/4 of an inch spacing between the wood planks. As you can see from this photo here, it was closer to a 1/2 inch. There was supposed to be fiberglass grating over the salt marsh, providing a minimum of 65% light penetration. There was no grating installed. And again, this 4 feet portion of the T-zone was extended to 8 feet. So given all of those deviations, the staff recommendation is to deny the certificate of compliance request for SE 35734 due to failure to comply with the approved conditions of the boardwalk that would have increased the light penetration and open space below it, which would have optimized the health of the salt marsh and the growth of its vegetation. We plan on moving this matter to enforcement in order to bring the boardwalk into compliance and in order to best preserve the salt marsh at hand. At this point, I'd like to open up the floor to the commission for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Katie. Any questions from the commissioners to Katie?
Yes.
John?
Yeah, quickie, Katie, one of the photos you showed of the boardwalk on the left-hand side of it as we were looking at it showed like a dead zone. Yeah, right there. Right.
I see which one you're talking about. This one right here?
Yeah, right there. Do you know what that's from?
So the remnant boardwalk, in the letter that John had wrote, or in the narrative for their notice of intent, it said it followed roughly along the same path as the former boardwalk, but I don't think it was the exact path. So I'm wondering if that might be due to the former boardwalk being located in that area. There also used to be a former footpath where the boardwalk now is.
Okay. Which might provide ample evidence, I would think, if it has to go to court, of the impact of the current boardwalk being so close to the surface as opposed to what was specified in the order of conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other questions from the commissioner for Katie?
I have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, Louise.
I'm wondering, this is a tidal area. So what happens if you have a real high tide, given the proximity of the surface of the boardwalk with the top of the marsh?
You mean would the water go over the boardwalk?
Yeah.
Potentially. So I believe it was in the letter from the DEP that they recommended it be at a 1-to-1 ratio versus the width of the boardwalk versus height. And the boardwalk is at 4 feet high, so they generally like to see that 1-to-1, so 4 feet high. I think to one, allow more open space below it for the vegetation, but also, like you were saying, for high tide as well, and to protect the boardwalk from potential damage.
And are you satisfied with the mitigation?
Yes, yeah. The mitigation and the patio, both of those look to be within compliance. It was just the boardwalk that we had concern with.
Okay, thank you.
John, your hand's up.
Yeah, it is. One more question, Katie. Do you know who did the installation of the boardwalk?
No, I don't. It was a contractor, I believe, that was doing other work for the property. I'm not sure exactly who it was. Yeah, I can't say. I'm not sure.
And Tom, for you, is there someone here to speak for the homeowner or representative?
John is here.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank
John,
you, guys.
John, you understanding what the enforcement order is?
I'm understanding the recommendations of the certificate of compliance. I'm here with the property owner, who would at some point like, an opportunity to have a discussion with the commission. I'm not sure if it's appropriate under this or under the enforcement. We'll leave that up to the commission on when would be the best time for us to speak.
I think it would be under the enforcement as we're going through this one.
Excuse me, Tom, would it be inappropriate if the homeowner these are some very serious concerns. It's clearly not even close to the order. Would it be inappropriate to hear something at this point, or would you just like to hold everything until the enforcement order?
I think we should hold it until the enforcement is opened up so that we have a better understanding of that, because purely we have to do something about this as a denial on the COC at this point.
Yeah, I was just wondering if perhaps there was some conversation that might make it a little bit easier for Ed when he does the enforcement order in a discussion with the homeowner. That's all. That it might be of some benefit.
Maybe leave it up to Ed.
Well,
He's here.
well, it's Katie.
Well,
The homeowner, William. Is it William?
No, I think it was Bernard and Barbara. Or yeah, Bernard and Barbara.
Yeah, but not. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce myself, and as I've been working with John over the years, the original intent of this was to do nothing but follow the rules as provided, and there was a complete oversight on our part. We worked off a floor plan or the site plan that actually was the plan of improvements. It wasn't the one that got recorded. We found out afterwards, we truly sorry for that and stand here ready in an effort to mitigate and make some corrections. But the initial intent of this boardwalk was to truly replace the boardwalk that was there historically used for children to cut across and get out to South Main. At the original presentation, the intent and ask was if we would use the same footings for the boardwalk. And while we said that we couldn't structurally, that we would use the same alignment, so the boardwalk is in the exact same place as it was, as well as the location. So, we truly wanted a simple boardwalk, wasn't trying to circumvent any rules or regulations or of the like on this. So we did involve the mitigation of the planting and the Phragmites in the scope, and have since not been able to achieve that this year because of this board, because of the concerns. I can address each of the items, but we used a natural flooring material that was similar to what we had on our deck and steps, and intended to, we pulled one of the stakes out, realized how the footing was, how deep it was, 24 feet, and we replaced and provided new 24-inch footings into the ground with a structural system that of wood and the planking. But it was always our idea just to replace it as is, and we obviously missed the memo on the 4-foot height, et cetera, et cetera.
So with that said, are you willing to go back to the 4-foot height and change the grading?
That would be a huge expense for me, and I at this point not sure I have the capabilities of doing that. So I'd have to look into the cost of that. There was a question about the high flooding. We have yet, again, this height of the boardwalk was the same height as what existed, and we have yet to have any water over, even in the super high moon tides. The level of the deck has not been, water has not gone over it, but it has been built to, in fact, withstand heavy tides and winds, so it's secure, but has not been breached, if you will, to date.
What happened to the T sections? Initially, we approved it as a 4 by 12.
Yeah,
4 by 4.
that again, a comedy of errors, if you will. But we'd be able and willing to chop off that 4 feet, or rebuild at a low tide to get that in compliance. That was, I think, that in itself was probably the oversight that we realized afterwards when we measured the drawings. So yeah, the 12 by 4 is what got approved, and the 12 by 8 we would be able to mitigate and change and correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners to the homeowner? If you hope to ask the questions,
Please.
John.
Sir, were you the original applicant on this?
I was. John and I were showed up back in 2018 and 19, and remember the meeting well in the board in the chambers in the large room, and
So you actually saw, you attended the meeting, you heard the vote, you saw the plan, you saw the certificate of compliance. So I guess I'm struggling with having seen that, having been the original, having been part of it. Why is there such a deviation between what was approved for very solid environmental reasons, I would add, and what was built? How did that gap happen?
We went backwards and tried to figure it out. And in fact, we built off the improvement plan that got blown up to 36 by 42 inches of March 28th, not the later version with a stamp on it. We never printed that version, so it was 100% responsibility of ours. I ironically, coincidentally, have a degree in landscape architecture. Don't practice, but I am considered to be wanting to do things correctly and right. And I truly was marching down the path of thinking that we were doing this correctly by bringing this boardwalk back to a position of versus the stebs in the ground. So if you can believe it, we actually thought we were doing the right thing, as we did on the other aspects of the agreement, including the stepping up and taking care of dealing with the Phagomites over a 5-year period and continuing to.
John, were you involved in any of this after the hearing?
No, I was not involved in any of this after the hearing. I think we went out about a year ago when this came up, and had some discussions early on with staff on how to deal with it, and it took a little while to get in, but it was fully constructed, and all the patios and all the mitigation and everything done. I would just, a couple of things that I might note, and again, maybe it's more on the enforcement side, but I don't think it's unusual for this commission to, today approve boardwalks lower than 4 feet, with the appropriate surfaces. I think this commission generally likes to see things kept as low as possible while still allowing things to grow underneath it. And so, I think a lot of these photos, you can see the grass is still popping right up through these boards. So, I think the homeowner is obviously hopeful that there's some modifications that can be done to bring this more into compliance. Without, and again, especially, the T is something that we keep grabbed on sort of right away of, we can fix that. Or widening the space between the boards if gotten it to the 3/4, or, definitely his driving force at this point is he's got the Wilkinson ready to take on the annual report on the mitigation, and even that's on hold because we don't have an order anymore. So we're hoping we can find a way to some sort of end to these.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Bill?
I don't have it in front of me, but I know that the Department of Marine Fisheries usually comes up with I think an even more stringent height requirement on boardwalks, and we usually opt for, I think, the 1-to-1, which is 4 feet. And the whole point of having the spacing at 3/4 inch and a 4-foot high is in order to try to maintain the salt marsh grass. And I want to say that the marine fisheries people think, that's not even enough. And so I'm just troubled that, I understand this was probably an expensive enterprise, putting that thing in incorrectly. But I I think that just, saying, well, it went, we put it in wrong, but let's not alter it much. I have a problem with that. I feel like a precedent would be set where you can just simply, dismiss the requirements. So I guess I'm supportive. I think what Katie, but your first presentation, good job. And I support what you are requesting, including dealing with this as an enforcement measure. Thank you.
Louise?
I think I know the answer to this, but which plan was your builder working off of?
Yeah, the plan that I mentioned, the March 28th blown up plan, the plan that was, full size, the big sheet of paper.
But not the stamp plan, not the one that was in the order of conditions. Is that
Correct.
right?
So that's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let's finish up here in the sense that the COC, this is a denial, and then we can extend the discussions in the enforcement. Actually, I should start under the enforcement. We should start with this case so that we don't forget all that discussions herein. So with the enforcement, could I have a motions to approve the enforcement as written, and then we can talk about this?
Excuse me, a motion to deny the certificate, Tom.
Correct. Could I have a motion to
So
deny
moved.
the certificate?
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. For the homeowner, but we will come back to this under the enforcement. I'll put that into the first item so that you don't have to stay for too long, and then we still can remember what we discussed before. We have two easy certificate of compliance. The first one is Shoestring Property, LLC, SE3-5998. And the second one is Lester 8 and Rosemary Dunt Mueller, SE3-5834. Could I have a motion to approve?
Could I ask a question? Could I ask a question about this first? It says for the 5998, it says no work commenced. And it said it raise and replace a commercial restaurant, no work commenced. So what does that mean? You're doing a compliance of something that wasn't done? I was just, it's a minor point, but.
It's incomplete. They did a new filing for it, so they're just getting a certificate of compliance on this project, but I'm going to be issuing an incomplete.
Legally, Bill, they have to for the filing for the courts. They have to file for the certificate to close out something.
Right.
So it's closed out as not done.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Just the heck.
Could I have a motion to approve those two COCs?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. We'll go into the enforcement order. I'll take it out of order. Is the Bernard and LeBeau and Barbara J. Guilfoyle, 1199 Creekview Beach Road, Sandyville, maps 206, parcel 053. Alteration of the wetland resource area, short mast by constructing a boardwalk over the mast not in conformance with the order of conditions or the plan of record. Katie? Oh, Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, so this, I'm not going to have to go through a lot of this because Katie pretty much covered everything that we had already talked about. The boardwalk is the part in question. Again, it was the size of the T, and then also the lack of the grading over the salt marsh and the 4 foot height over the salt marsh that are lacking here. And again, it's the spacing of all of the deck planking is at about a half an inch, which again is supposed to be 3/4 of an inch, except over the salt marsh, which was supposed to be the grading. There is no grading. I don't think there's in the plan of record. There's actually a call for steps for public access over the dock or the boardwalk. I don't know if you necessarily need that, given it's only a foot and a half off the ground. But those were not constructed either. And like I said, then there's I think in my view, the most serious issue is the fact that you don't have the grading over the salt marsh, and therefore light penetration is severely reduced. And that certainly is going to be affecting the ability for the salt marsh plants to grow. So my enforcement order is asking that either by November 1st, 2024, you should either remove the boardwalk and restore the resource area to the original conditions, or you should file a new notice of intent seeking to reconstruct the boardwalk to comply with the special conditions and approved plan under SE 35734, or some variation if the board would approve of that. But I think at this point they would need to file a new notice of intent to do and condition whatever project you'd like to see in the future. So I think that's all I have on that. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to ask or answer.
Any questions from the commissioners to add? So, John and Burnett, we come back to that discussions. For sure that your T section has to be reduced back to the 12x4 dimensions. So, and the block walk height, I remember that in some cases we don't follow that rule from the DMF or marine fishery and stuff like that, but sometimes we have very low too, but the gap for the light penetration is an issue. Do you have any solution for us, John, for consider?
I think the homeowner was just going through some ideas before of how we might be able to increase the light penetration on those boards.
Sure. We were considering, we know that the boardwalk is about 100 feet long. We were thinking in 6 or 8 foot increments, we could stencil cut out a PVC material. It happens to be part of the work that I do, where we could create those shapes and create a 65% light penetration panel that gets placed, once the boardwalk is stripped of its paneling, we would then lay these panels down on top. They'd be painted the same color and either be made of aluminum or plastic, I'm not sure yet, for their durability and strength, tensile strength, and replace the horizontal elements with these perforated, if you will, stencil cut panels. I would definitely need a little more time than having this done by November 1st, but I could create them and then in the spring be able to have them ready to be laid down, or submit a drawing that shows the percentage of light space that's allowed, and then work in these 4 or 8 foot increments of a flooring, if you will, a replacement flooring that would run the length of the boardwalk and the T to address the 65% light penetration required.
Thank you. Any comments from the commissioner?
I have a comment. I just looked. I did look. Excuse. I just looked up the Marine Fisheries Division of Marine Fisheries standard blather on height of docks over salt marsh, and it is 1.5 to 1. which in this case would have been a 6 foot, at which we usually blow off that recommendation. But, and here it's a 1-to-1. So,
Excuse me, Tom.
Yeah, Darcy.
I would recommend that the commissioners back staff on this. Being so low to the marsh, I would say that the only other way it should possibly have a chance of staying is taking all the decking off and putting grading. But, and I also would like to state that when orders of conditions are issued, we're supposed to have forms A and B signed by the property owner and the contractor stating they have clearly read the orders of conditions. And that means it lists everything. And as Katie brought up, we talked about the grading, the spacing, and the spacing would be the parts that, if there were any that weren't going over the salt marsh. And the property owner and the consultant is supposed to sign stating they have read all of the conditions before proceeding. That order is recorded. So I just wanted to make that statement.
And those were not done, Darcy? Those orders were not signed?
I would have to ask Ed or Katie. I don't have the file in front of me.
They were signed.
But they were signed. Okay.
So, excuse me, Katie, so the contractor and the owner signed those documents saying, yes, we read it and we'll do that?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I'm not, I'd have to check the name of the contractor, but we did have forms A and B for this project signed.
And we put those in place many, many, many years ago because I would run across contractors who would state they didn't have the right plan in front of them. And I got tired of having so many enforcement orders. I mean, I was writing almost 90 a year. So we started this forms A and B to make it clear and there wouldn't be mistakes.
Right. Right.
Who is the contractor?
I have to look up his name. He's a local carpenter and who lives in nearby. I have to look up his name.
Is that the same name that's signed on the form? I think that's.
I believe so. Yes. Yeah, and I'm trying. I myself may have signed that form, obviously, but I don't recall the reading the pages of description.
I think that this was also sort of a split project of, there was some house renovation, there was some landscaping, and then there was a boardwalk. And I think generally these days try to keep those separated. And this may be some of the reason why, because typically the boardwalk contractor doesn't know anything about the landscaping and vice versa. And in terms of the graded materials, I believe that's what he's trying to say. He's just going to make it custom because he has the tools to produce that kind of stuff and can maybe make something that he thinks is better looking than the commercial grading. But he's saying he's going to make a graded decking that has could make a graded decking with the required light penetration.
Thank you, George. Louis?
Well, let's see, based on our earlier conversation, it sounds like if those forms were signed, it was acknowledging that they had looked at the wrong specifications or the wrong drawings. Am I correct in that?
Yes, we used the wrong drawings. Yes, ma'am.
Right, that you signed off on having seen the wrong drawings. Let me see, my understanding of the description was that in terms of fabricating light transmitting planks, you were going to do one every 4, or was the plank going to be super wide and it would be the width of 4 planks?
For the remedial, for the intent of the remediation.
Right. Yeah, what was I didn't quite get.
Yeah, so similar to the docking and decking that I've seen in commercial applications at marinas, where there's holes, almost elliptical shaped holes,
right,
of different sizes and shapes that still allows for structural strength, but also letting light through. So that's right. That's what
It would do
But you
the
mentioned
full
one
boardwalk
out of
first.
4.
I think he was
said-
saying that instead of buying those prefabricated through flow decking, which come in 1-foot panels, he may produce these in 4-foot sections that would just get laid down, but it would.
So it
still
would be the entire surface of
Yes.
the, um,
Yes, because it sounds like
boardwalk
that.
would be light penetrating. And then the spacing between the planks of 3/4 of an inch, you'd have to deal with that somehow, compensate.
Well, I think they would only happen every 4, 6, or 8 feet, depending on the weight of this. And we in fact would put 3/4 to an inch in between each light emitting panel.
Right, except you'd have to compensate for the fact that the specification said 3/4 of an inch between
that's usually an
single
or.
1 inch.
I think that's
Yeah.
usually an or situation. For boardwalks that are not on salt marsh, you put 3/4 decking. If you're over marsh, you do the light penetration, but I don't think people ever do the
Okay.
light penetration and then still put 3/4 in between each of those.
That's not the way it was described earlier when we were talking.
Right.
So
Button up next to each other.
obviously that needs to get sorted out before considering a modification.
Let me go to Angela first.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to say I fully support the staff in this enforcement order, and I feel the negotiation should happen in a new NOI if that's where we move to. Thank you.
So Ed, can you repeat that enforcement, your written enforcement order? What is required to do?
Yeah, so essentially, I'm looking for either for you to remove the boardwalk completely and restore the area by November 1st, 2024, or file a new notice of intent that seeks to reconstruct the boardwalk to comply with the special conditions of the approved plan under SE 35734, or if you, the commission would like to modify a plan, that's entirely up to you as to whether or not you do that or not. One thing I would like to say, it's like I did, Katie did look it up for me. Mr. LeBeau did sign the Form AB, and it was distinctive carpentry. Let's see, it was distinctive carpentry was the carpenter, and the alternate project supervisor was Flavio Grigio.
I can confirm that.
And my only other concern with this is that was my first thought. It's like, well, you could just go ahead and put the grading over the entire thing and let it run the entire length over the marsh. But my only concern with that is that if you do that, then you're certainly going to get the light penetration that we were looking for, but you're also going to get a lot more grass growing up between the grading at the height of the summer. And then my question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to just walk all over the grass and essentially kill it as you're walking across the grading? Right. Or are you going to end up mowing it, which may be slightly better than walking on it, I guess, would be my opinion. But and just as a matter of clarification, and DMF does say 1.5 to 1 for a height to width ratio. They specifically talk about that and apply that to north-south facing or north-south running piers. And this one's sort of, northeast southwest or northwest southeast running. So it's it's still important, but either way.
Thank you, Ed. Bill?
Yeah, thank you, Ed. That I'm sitting here thinking 1.5. Well, no, we asked for a 1-to-1, and yet in fact, I believe Katie was saying this is a 0.5 to 1. It's half. And I was thinking, what's the salt marsh plant going to be doing? Literally, it would be growing out of it, and so the thing is essentially 2 feet off the ground, and it just seems wrong because you're right. You're just going to have it's too low.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I have a problem with that, seriously.
yeah. Thank you, Ed, for repeating what you proposed on the enforcement order. I think we should follow the enforcement order. If the owner wish to, do something different, he has to file that NOI so that we have a chance to look at that stuff again. So I think this is the enforcement order. We just have to decide what do we want to do, and I recommend to go with the staff recommendations for the enforcement order as written. So. Any other questions from the commissioner on this?
Yes.
John?
Technical question, Ed, those forms that you referred to, A and B or whatever, that they're both signed, did they make reference to the specific order of conditions dated, whatever it was for this?
They always refer to the file number, the SE3 file number.
Okay, so clearly they signed those forms, the file number was on there, the order was clear, the specifications were clear. I really have trouble understanding, sir, especially with an engineering or landscaping background, the failure to comply with it. I mean, you were part of the order. I kind of struggle. And then I listened to Bill, and I think he's absolutely right. I mean, the environmental impact of this is significant. There is very strong reasons why we require what we require in these for 100 and whatever it was, Katie, over the length of that boardwalk. I certainly have great empathy with the cost of having to pull this out and redo it. I have great empathy with that. But from an environmental point of view, you blew it, as they say in legal circles. So, Tom, I would agree with you. I think at this point, all we could do is deny or support the enforcement order and see what John and his client come back with. But having heard these comments.
Yeah. Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order?
Can we ask one question about that? And maybe Ed says it can be handled separately, but just on the immediate reaction, and it may change over a dinner or something, but the immediate reaction is that this may just have to come out for the time being, and replacing it and new notices may not be in the cards at this point. If additional time was needed to accomplish that, is that something that can be handled with, if we need it into the winter, is that something that can be handled with staff?
I think that's Ed's decision, isn't it, Tom or Darcy?
Yeah. I mean, you can discuss with Ed and see whether you can need more time.
The schedule. And the only other question I guess we might have is is it possible to do the maintenance of the Phragmites with this outstanding at this point?
Ed?
I mean, technically, I would say no. You can't do it because you don't have anything to work under. But I think at the same time, if you're willing, if the homeowner is going to sign something saying this is my intent to remove the boardwalk, it's just going to take more time, then I don't think I would have a problem with you continuing with the invasives, because if you I do understand that if you have an issue with that's gonna postpone the invasives management, that you're also going to, you could lose the invasives aspect of the project, and I'd rather not see that. But at the same time, I also don't want to see a boardwalk 2 feet off the salt marsh. So if there's a way you can blend those two, then I'm willing to work, and I'd have to defer to Darcy because she's the administrator, but I would be willing to work with that as well.
Thank you. Ed, yeah, that's probably the plan of attack. This is Mr. Lebo speaking, and the plan of most likely going forward will be the removal of the boardwalk, the vertical elements in the ground will remain because that's what was there when we, that's the original condition of the property. And we'll get back on focusing on the invasive and non-invasive plantings and Phagermite removal. We have Wilkerson on deck, but they have not been able to do anything this season. This season due to this this error in the boardwalk. So I don't anticipate us coming in and wanting to put in a 4-foot high boardwalk. All along, the intent was to replace the boardwalk that was historically there at grade, and it sounds like that's not allowed. So that's probably the direction that we have. We do need a little more time than November 1st because the tradesmen will have a little more time on their hands, in the colder months, and be able to remove this. And
so as long as you're willing to give a reasonable, I mean, like I'm willing to give maybe another month or so, but beyond that, I would also expect that you'd understand that if we say December 1st or December 15th, something like that, that if it doesn't come out, then I'm going to start coming back with non-criminal citations frequently.
Well, that's what I'm trying to avoid. If I can,
right.
It's already almost, it's September, so I'd have to mobilize and with equipment and people and scheduling, and it's going to be probably a week's work, if not more. So I'm just trying to, if you could say, if we could come to an agreement at this point by December 31st, the decking will be gone and all removed from the site, other than the, and return the site to the condition that it was with the stake, with the wooden verticals on the ground. I can probably commit to having that done by the end of the year, calendar year. I mean, I have been working on this for 6 years, so a couple months is a pretty short period of time to request the removal of $100,000 worth of boardwalk.
Are you okay with that, December 30th?
I think Tom, excuse me, will really let Ed negotiate that between he and the owner. I mean, we don't need to approve that at this point, do we? Or do we?
Well, because Ed has a date in there, or we can say approve this, and then it's subject to Ed to work with the homeowner for the final date. Because right now it sounds like, I think December 3rd, the end of December 30th sounds reasonable,
I agree.
And then it's going to be done rather than keep on negotiating what, it doesn't make sense.
As well as being able to get Wilkerson back on the property. That's what I'm trying to do, is make a commitment for a date and know that I can get Wilkerson back on the property because I've lost, 2024 work.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order as written and change the dates from November 1st to December 30th to remove all the planking?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. John and Bernard, please work with Ed and notify him as far as, when the planks are gone and so forth. Thank you. We go back to the first enforcement order. Assembly require LLC 110 East Bay Road, Austerville, map 141, parcel 123.001, alteration of a wetlands resource area bordering vegetated wetlands by cutting down a tree and alteration of a buffer to 2 wetland resource area, BVW and salt marsh by limbing and pluming a tree. Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pretty straightforward. I will say that this is a little unusual in that This was brought to my attention by the representative of Assembly Required, Mr. Mark Curley. Just what you can see here, the red arrows are marking, or the red point is marking the approximate location of the cut tree. You can see it's a little busy here on the left, which showing all the different resource areas and just showing that it is in fact in resource area. If you take a look, this is all this is a very odd shaped parcel. It's a larger parcel. I forget how many acres, but it comes down in this very, very narrow spoke here and then fans out and around the whole rest of a significant portion of the marsh. The tree that was cut was located right here. The house we're talking about is over here, for the property is over here on in this area. So what you're seeing is this was, and again, it's very remote, especially on the Assembly Required parcel. The house that you're looking back at here is actually 547 Main Street in Osterville, and I believe it was the homeowner at this residence that actually caused the tree to be cut down. Assembly Required had no knowledge of this at all. It certainly doesn't make any sense that the tree was cut by Assembly Required because it affords no view for them whatsoever. However, it does look as though this person would have more of a view if the tree was cut down. So there was a tupelo here, a fairly good sized condition, about 12 to 14 inch stump. And then there were a couple of limbs that were removed from this oak tree over on the left, and you can see the scars here. Probably done sometime around February, March, I would think, based on condition of the wood. Again, so this was caused by another party. I have an enforcement order out to the homeowner at 547, and so you'll be seeing that most likely next month. And at that time, I hope to have the name of the arborist who had taken the tree and done the tree and limbing work. For this particular enforcement order, I'm just asking that they replace one tupelo with the cut tupelo with 2.5 to 3 inch caliper tupelo tree. Again, this site is extremely difficult. It's going to be a lot of work to try to actually get it. It'll have to be all handwork that gets that tree into the area. The area where the tupelo was cut was very spongy earth. The property line has more or less been assessed and established, so they know exactly where what property is which. And then I'll just be asking for monitoring reports for at least 2 years to see to ensure that tree continues to thrive. With that, if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them. And I think Mr. Curley is in the audience as well.
Commissioner, do you have any questions for Ed? If not, Charles, the homeowner, do you understand what Ed is asking you to do?
Yes. Yeah. We've spoken about it.
Okay. You okay with that?
Yeah. We brought this to his attention because the neighbors had cut these trees and has admitted to it. It was brought to our attention by an intermediate neighbor when they arrived back for the spring. So we just wanted to make sure that we made you aware of it, and we're willing to do that work, and we'll deal with the neighbor as far as who pays for it.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order as written?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Mark. The second enforcement order is Charles R. Grant, trustee and Chatham Realty Trust, 524 Wiano Avenue, Austinville, map 163, parcel 027, alteration of a wetland resource area, land subject to coastal flooding by cutting 5 trees and alteration of the buffer to 2 wetland resource area, coastal bank, state and town bank, and salt marsh by cutting 5 trees. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is the same old story that we just heard. This was again brought to my attention by Mr. Grant's landscaper, Nick Publicover, with Jacksteimer. Again, this was a situation where a neighbor had caused one of their agents to cut the trees, supposedly mistakenly on Mr. Grant's property. The area that's involved, we're claiming 5 trees, trees being defined as anything that's 5 inches or greater in diameter. There were a total of, I think, if I counted correctly, and Nick can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but there were up to 12 trees that were like the smaller size that were saplings that had been cut. Mostly oak trees, and at least 2 pitch pines that were cut. And again, we're just asking, you can see that the property line was right here. This is sort of a sloped area that's overlooking the area from here. And the area of cutting occurred right here on this bank, right very close to the property line. Again, the mark shows the general area where the cutting took place. Again, it was a slope. It's not a coastal bank. It's just a sloped feature that's in buffer zone to a bank and a BVW and dune. And again, you can see some fairly good sized trees, about 38 inches or thereabouts estimated diameter that was cut. You can see all of these smaller little patches here are all smaller trees. That's for these shrubs that were cut, and then a couple of the pine trees over here. And again, this was a self-reported issue. Was not carried out by Mr. Grant or his contractors. And so again, I am going to be pursuing the name of the arborist, our landscaper who did the cutting, but I don't have that at this moment. I am asking that they perform present a restoration sketch plan that will be sent, that will be given to me for a review. They need to plant 4 native trees of 2.5 to 3 inch caliber to replace cut trees. You just won't, that bank won't accept more trees. So they'll have to add some, or throw some shrubbery in there as well. Again, this is a fairly easy site to access. So I'm just asking that they do the site work with dollies and keep the heavy equipment up to a minimum. Again, with the 2 annual monitoring reports. I know Mr. Grant is in the audience, as is Nick Publicover from Jacksteimer. If you have questions from me or them, I'll be glad to answer them now.
Thank you, Ed. Commissioner, any questions for Ed? Mr. Grant and Nick, do you understand what Ed is asking for you to do under the enforcement order on this request?
Yes, sir. Yep. So I can follow up with Ed with a plan sketch to replenish what unfortunately got taken out. And then we can do all handwork. Like Ed said, it's fairly easily accessible. And we can monitor, get the irrigation there, and we should be able to get it back in check.
Thank you, Nick. The only question I have though is September 20th is coming fast, going fast. Today is the 10th already. You have enough time?
I would say if we could give me, I want to say yes, but if we could say maybe mid-November just to be safe. But I don't think we'll have a problem hitting the end of October. Is that what the date was at October 31st?
It was actually planting by October 31st, a sketch plan by September 20th. But if you want to push the sketch plan back a little bit, again, it doesn't have to be, professionally drawn or anything. It just has to be a sketch plan.
Can we go end of September maybe?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Right. That way we can make sure.
Yeah, that still gives you time to plant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because 10 days is not that far off.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yes, sir.
Could I have a motion to approve the enforcement order as written with the extensions of the submission of the sketch plans to the end of September?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Tangney. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick,
Everybody.
for working with Ed.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
The last enforcement order is Patrick Brunt, 91 Sterling Road, Hyannis, maps 268, parcel 203. Alterations of the 50-foot buffer to a wetland resource area. Vegetated wetland by cutting vegetations, placing fill, and regrading. Ed, you want to go through this, or are you table this to?
No, just if you would just table this one, we're just a little bit behind on getting prepared for this one, but this will should be ready for October then.
Yeah, so I'll table this to October the 15th. We have 3 warning letters. The first one is Charles P. and Carol J. Piper, 721 Old Post Road, contoured maps 054, parcel 011.002, failure to comply with an ongoing condition of a COC on permitted vessels at piers.
It's pretty much as it says. It was an unpermitted vessel that was not approved for a dock space at the pier. I've asked them to remove the vessel, and it has been removed and is currently sitting at rest at its intended legal mooring. So they're all set, and I just need you to note that then.
Thank you, Ed. The second one is Left and Elena Lutton, 21 Scottsdale Road, Sanibel, maps 229, parcel 064, failure to comply with an order conditions for file SC3-6177, special conditions number 3, 4, 6, and 7. Ed.
Okay, so those special conditions, again, they didn't issue, or they didn't put a DEP file sign up. They had failed to provide most of the documentation, pre-construction documentation that we require as part of the, again, before you do any full work on site. They did have erosion control in the form of a coir log, but there was no silt fencing. If you remember that site, it was just you heard it just recently, I think in April or May. That site is kind of hilly in the background, had a large pile of dirt, which brought the complaint from one of the people in the neighborhood. All of that has been corrected now. Erosion controls are present and in place, and everything is back to into compliance at this point. So they are starting to proceed with the addition.
Thank you, Ed. The third warning letter is Christy M. and Stephen M. Carey, 302 Church Street, West Barnstable, map 153, parcel 009.001, alterations of the 100-foot buffer to a wetland resource area, vegetated wetland by cutting vegetations.
All right, this is pretty straightforward. It's just some minor cutting in the 50 to 100. The homeowner was not aware that there was a wetland. It was just off the corner and back of his property. He does know exactly where the wetland is now. He has marked the 100-foot buffer, and he is promising to stay outside that 100-foot unless he comes before us to permit anything. So it's all set.
Thank you, Ed. We have 3 RDAs this afternoon. The first one is Thomas and Susan Hamilton's removal of 2 declining American beech trees due to suspected beech leaves disease and 2 additional decay and dead trees at 65 Holly Ridge Hill Lane, Marston's Mill, as shown on the Assessors Map 081, parcel 006/027. Thomas or Susan, who's speaking? Who want to speak? Hello?
Yeah, hi, this is Tom, and I'm here with Susan, but we have Ralph Alfieri, who's going to be describing the project.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Ralph.
Hey, how are you?
Not bad. Go ahead.
So we have 2 American beech. Both are declining at the back of the property. One is built in, I guess the deck is built around the tree. That tree does have some decay in the lower stem below the deck and is in decline from beech leaf disease and some canker as well. And there is another larger beech at the back of the property that is also in decline, has some major decay in the lower stem and other structural issues. Both trees were originally looked at to be treated, but I determined that it was probably not the best course of action and they should be removed due to the structural issues and the beech leaf disease.
Thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome.
Commissioner, any questions for Ralph? I don't see any hand up, right? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
The second RDA is the Beach Club of Craigville, Inc., to square off and rebuild the existing dining room with work assessed from street and install helical piles as new foundations at 27 Long Beach Road, Centerville, as shown on the Assessors Maps 206, parcel 016. Ben?
Yes, hi, good evening, or good afternoon, rather. I am here on behalf of the Beach Club.
We're seeing the drawing now.
Yes, I am, and I'm just gonna, so thank you for your time this afternoon. We are rebuilding the dining room. What the dining room is the area outlined in gray on that plan. And the reason for this work is it's an existing structure that is rotted. So the foundation system has failed and needs to be replaced. So we did a proof of concept on a small portion of this previously, where we did interior demolition. We kept the shell of the building in place, and then we brought a small hydraulically powered dingo walk-behind machine that has a screw attachment to the head to drive in helical piles, ground screws. You know, they have all kinds of different names, but the idea is you turn the screw into the sand until the computer reads a torque resistance that aligns with the structural engineer's specifications to say it's going to be suitable for the foundation. So knowing that this process works well and knowing that we're carefully dismantling a historic wood frame building between an existing building that we don't want to damage and between a wonderful very large deck on helical piles that we don't want to damage. Our best access from a logistic point of view is to hand dismantle the building and carry it right out the front door. We can't feasibly get a machine back there to do a traditional excavator, heavy equipment style demolition. So we'll have to do selective demolition by hand. And while we are rebuilding, there is a curved shape on the outside of the building that, right now we refer to it as the bullnose. That is for a handful of structural and logistic reasons proposed to be rebuilt in a straight line. And we didn't attempt to rebuild it any bigger. We went to the midpoint of the bullnose and actually in that process end up with a slight reduction in the total square footage of the building over the sand of, I'm going to pull it up right now, but I want to say it was like 31.2 square feet reduction in overall square footage.
31.1, Ben.
Thank you, Jim. That's the number. So we're reducing that, and in its place, we'll in the little triangles that are exposed between the white and the horizontal lines, we'll be putting the decking back in to match the rest of the deck.
Thank you, Ben. Any question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Hearn?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Tangney, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Ben.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yep. The third RDA is James A. and Gail C. Redley. Proposed bank vegetation restorations to include removal of invasive and non-native species and removal of patio stones from bank landing as 298 Carriage Road, Austinville, as shown on the Assessors Map 070, Parcel 020. John?
Good afternoon, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting, representing the applicant. I think that Jay from Mainstay Landscaping may be here, although I don't see his name. Also representing the applicant. I'll work on bringing up a plan for you all. As you stated, this project's at 298 Carriage Road in Austinville on Oyster Harbor. It's about a 2-acre parcel. We're looking at the area around the coastal bank. Few different aspects to it, but in general, we are seeing quite a bit of invasives in there, and we're looking to do hand removal of that work. I did today prepare a little bit of a revision to this plan based on some comments that we had from staff, and so just to walk you through those. Goes up to this side and kind of going through all parts of the property. The southern portion of the property is pretty well vegetated with Rosa rugosa, and it's mostly healthy, especially around the path. A little bit further away has been maybe less tended for, so just looking to do a rejuvenating prune in that area and hand pulling of the vines. The pathway itself, there's some stones at the landing at the bottom of it that they would just prefer to remove from it at this point, leaving the shell path. And then the bank to the north of that, again, we were going to cut and pull the invasives and replant with beach grass and some shrubbery. What we've changed on this is that we got more specific on the beach grass. It's their intent to really heavily revegetate this to maintain the stability of this bank. And so it was their intent to do 2 cones of beach grass per square foot. So we added that to this note. We kept the planting number the same for that sort of aspect of the work. But staff noted that there's some dead Rosa rugosa in this area to the north of the bank. And so we would also be requesting to remove that dead Rosa rugosa and replace it And so we added about 25 more shrubs into this area based on this plan. So again, I took all work by hand, really trying not to disturb the dirt at all, get something back in there that will help maintain the stability of this bank and be an overall benefit for the property and the environment. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. The plan revision date on this sketch is September the 10th, and this revised plan was sent out. I think it's late this morning to the commissioner. John?
John, when I was out there, and then I called Darcy actually, I was confused, and I just need to clarify that bank, the whole bank along there, has a tremendous amount of dead, looks like Rosa rugosa. So the bank is very, very, very poorly vegetated. Does this plan say you're going to replant along the whole bank between the north and the south points? That whole bank's going to be replanted as you, and not just areas?
The plan is to reestablish the vegetation across the whole bank.
Okay, right. And Darcy, that clarified the question I raised with you, right, Darcy? You're okay?
Yes, yes.
Great, super. Thank you.
Angela?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And John O'Day, I want to thank you for the revision and the clarifications. I also walked the property and had some questions, but I do not now. So thank you very much for that.
Great.
Thank you, Angela. Any more questions from the commissioner? Seeing none. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this projects as a negative determinations with the revised plan sketch date of September the 10th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili?
Aye.
Foster?
Aye.
Kern?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, John.
Thank you.
We have one NOI this afternoon. Is Joseph Jenkins, trustee, Bluff Point 1999 Trust Number 2. The proposed project includes the removal of the large fiber road, installation of a 290 linear foot fiber road along the eroding sections, and the nourishment over the fiber road to the beach area, relocations of the existing deck and utility adjacent to the access steps, removal and replacement of the access steps, and all associated clearing, grading, and landscaping required for the proposed work at 128 North Point Drive, contoured as shown on the assessors map 034, parcel 069. Tim?
Yes, good evening.
First?
Yeah, good evening. I should say good afternoon. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers representing the applicant. Also with me this afternoon is Seth Wilkinson from Wilkinson Ecological Design. With your permission, I'm just going to share my screen quick.
Yes, please. While you're showing up the screen, a couple of things that we're still waiting for. One is the DEP number, and then the second one is the NHESP comment letter.
That is correct. That is correct. So the property is located at 128 Bluff Point Drive, along at the end of the cul-de-sac along Katuitt Bay. Currently developed with existing single-family home. Resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property. Coastal bank, basically where the home runs, land subject to coastal storm flowage. There's a big dune system out back here, as well as some salt marsh to the, I guess that's the northeast portion of the site. And then the beach along the bay here. Back in 2004, this project was before you, and order of conditions was issued for a fiber roll array installation. Believe it survived pretty well over the past 10 years. We're back before you this afternoon looking for permission to remove some of the old disturbed rolls and install a new installation. So at this point, I will kind of turn it over to Seth. He'll run through that quickly, and then we can address any questions or concerns that you might have. Seth,
Thank you.
Do you want me to stop sharing, or do you want to bring up your plan?
If it's just as easy for you to drop our plan, that's great, or I can do it. Thank you. That's great. Hello, members of the Conservation Commission, Seth Wilkinson, Wilkinson Ecological. It's nice to see you all. It's been a little while since I've been before you. This project doesn't make me feel any younger because I remember when we installed it a decade ago. This was actually designed by Peter Sullivan himself. In 2004, fiber rolls were generally slightly different installation methods, and 7 to 10 years was about as good as it got for a fiber roll on any sort of an exposed site such as this. So it lasted the full 10 years, and it was actually the first fiber roll array that Wilkinson Ecological ever installed pre-vegetated, and was actually featured in a coastal zone management publication, as a matter of fact. So sort of an interesting history. The vegetation took very well, as you could see from the first page of our protocols, where we showed a picture of the way it looked 10 years ago. Basically, we're looking to retreat somewhat to address current conditions. First thing we would do is remove all the damaged fiber rolls. There are about 50 feet left at the eastern end, which have a wonderful community of salt meadow hay growing above them, and we're not proposing to do anything but just connect the damaged, the replaced portion with the existing, and hope that continues to persist at that end. It's a little more protected over there. It's the furthest from the inlet. These southeasterly storms that have become quite common as really our dominant winter storms for the last 6 or 7 years have been hard on this landform because it faces south. And as we know, there's also been some water quality improvements, which sort of allow more water and storm up into this area while they're also improving water quality. So both of those have been tough. So we are proposing to revise the design just slightly to go a little higher to match the landform. Basically, the beach has dropped and the bank has retreated. So while 10 years ago, 3-foot array was sufficient, current conditions dictate that it have a maximum height of 6 fiber rolls at the western end, and then that would just taper down as the plan shows as we move to the east to match the existing 3 array. And the landform is quite low at the end, so we'll be only going high enough to taper the landform to match existing grades, no higher. Is to address a question that came up from staff as far as construction access. I do recall access being very tight in 2014, particularly where the small driveway, gravel driveway, comes down from the turnaround, and as it goes by the deck, it's made even tighter by a 26-inch diameter oak tree. That's a pretty good sized tree that's close to the coast. And we felt that if we could find a path around that tree and around its root system, then we wouldn't have to limb up any of the lower limbs and potentially compact the roots, and very possibly damage the oak tree, because there's a sand nourishment component of this project as well. It's a pretty active area, so we want to make sure we're compensating for any sand migration. And so we found an area where there's a very dead cherry tree, but other than that, primarily non-native species. There's a yew, and I just want to make sure I this correctly, and a handful of other shrubs, large autumn olive, but no significant natives at all in that, where we depart from the existing path, and that would be used solely for construction access, and it would just be allowed to grow back in after that, so that the owners have no need to use that for anything. They already have access, but it's just a way to protect that tree. This fibril array, like its predecessor, would be vegetated, and there is a sand nourishment component as well to compensate for any sand which is locked up behind the fibrils, and that could be as much as 200 cubic yards, as it notes in the detailed protocols. And there's a trigger, which is if 30% of the fibrils become exposed, we would nourish to the sufficient volume not to exceed 200 cubic yards, just to get back to the design load that's proposed. We're also proposing to relocate the small platform, which was approved as part of the prior 2014 order, which is shown as a deck there. It would be right at the top of the fibril array. We'd rather see a vegetative community get established there, and there's an open sandy location where we thought we could retreat that and also get it a little further away from storm energy. No increase in size, no change in utilities. I believe it's served by water, just a little foot wash, and electricity presently, and that would just be reconnected at this location, essentially on the other side of the path, and pulled back as far as we can. So thought it was a good opportunity to retreat that structure somewhat in response to the coastal erosion. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission might have.
Thank you, Seth. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah.
I have a couple of minor questions to start with. So Wilkinson will be the serve for this project, right? Or are you doing the contract work as well?
We are contracted to construct as well as to design and assist with the permitting.
Thank you. I have a few hands up. Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. No questions about the fibril or the nourishment or moving back that utility deck. It's teetering right on the edge. But again, could you repeat why you took such a wide construction access through that point? And I understand the part around the deck of the house and the trees, but could you connect quicker to that sandy path to the water and just make that a little wider rather than go all that way down to the dead cherry tree and off that dune edge? Because you do spend a lot of time on that construction access route in that area off the top of the coastal bank all the way down. Is there another, could you join that sandy path with the shells on it quicker?
Yeah, we did look, and that was the only location we could find, because it's a better access for us as well to stay on the path. But the only place that we could avoid any native trees was that path. That was all we were able to find. If we were limbing up or possibly removing saplings or something like that, we could get close. We could probably shorten that, but that was what we felt was the best way to avoid. It was really dictated by the vegetation that was there.
Okay, thank you.
Bill?
I noticed that you're taking out some, granted they're yews and autumn olive and whatnot, but I see that they're right at the top of the bank, on the slope going down to the ocean, and you're going to be it says it's going to be reseeded with native grasses. Would it be better even to put in some shrubs or trees, native shrubs and trees, to replace the autumn olive and the yews? I'm just thinking of the stability of the bank.
Sure. Yeah, this would probably colloquially be referred to as sort of a regulatory coastal bank. You've got a pretty extensive coastal dune system, and this is really I think most people would consider it the bottom of what felt like a coastal bank, but it's not, because of the way that we delineate these resource areas. So it's still a relatively flat area where we come off the crushed shell driveway. The reason we haven't proposed any woody shrubs is fibrils do periodically require some maintenance, and if that sand needs to be replaced, we would use that access route again. This area has a very intact canopy, So that's not an issue. It's grown up above it, and that was the purpose of sort of weaving through, so we didn't impact the existing canopy. But anything woody would become a problem if a repair had to be made or if sand had to be returned to the site. With the weight of sand, the full load is like 10 dump truck loads, so it's not an insignificant amount of weight, and so we felt that was the best. And it would be matted to spread that weight out, but still,
that's good. That's a fair answer. That you may need to use it for future maintenance. That's fair enough. Thank you.
Louise?
Well, my question really related, I think it's been answered by Seth, and that is, even though you're going to restore the path that you've created to do this project, if you need to do maintenance, you're going to have to resurrect it again, right?
Yeah.
Correct. It would only be used for the maintenance of the array, and since we don't know the frequency or intensity of the storms, we may not have to go back in for 5 years, or if I'm really optimistic, 10 more years. So I don't think too many climate models support that. But we just don't know how frequently we'll be in there, and so that's the reason. Like, we're on the same page.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Louise. John?
Yeah, it was interesting because I had the same set of questions as Angela and Bill and Louise. And in fact, your write-up says it is going to be a, quote, dedicated construction path. I assume that means it'll be there forever. What I was wondering, Seth, is specifically, you could kind of exactly what has to be cut out of because there's a lot of growth here. What exactly has to be cut out of the access path until it reaches back to the sandy walkway? And couldn't you get to the sandy walkway in a better fashion? But what exactly has to be cut out, and what are you going to replace there? And when you mean dedicated, what does that mean? I mean, what's always going to be there?
Yeah, by dedicated, just meaning that anytime we need to use access, that's what it would be for, and it would only be for that. So if the owners, wanted to bring, a table down to put on the deck, they'll use the path. They wouldn't, the existing hardened path, and they would not use the dedicated construction path. So it's solely to be used for maintenance and repairs of the fiber array, and only for that. As far as exactly there specifically, there is a large yew which is non-native. That's sort of an escape from most foundation, a very common foundation shrub, which is actually a tree. They do wander around Barnstable a little bit. Autumn olive and a dead black cherry are the only woody species of any size that would be impacted, and they are flagged in the field and shown on the Merrill plan.
So no other woody species, no other, quote, trees for a layman are going to be removed. There is the one dead one. I don't have a problem with that, obviously, but nothing else is being removed. So now you're talking about cutting just shrubs and low growth stuff to get access through the woods there.
Yes, and because it is an intact canopy, it has that sort of little bit lighter understory. Yeah. But we let the trees basically direct us where the best construction access was, so that we didn't, if there was a tree, we moved the access.
So and you're going to replant that. What would the access road look like after you're all done?
It'll be very naturalized. We'll put down a little bit of seed because of the full canopy. We don't expect that to come in dense at all. But if there's any exposed mineral soil, then it'll germinate and close up that niche and prevent invasives from coming in, that type of thing, or weeds. But it'll really, if we have to go back every 2 years, you'll see it a little bit more. If we come back every 5 years, you'll probably be hard pressed to find it.
Okay, thank you. Switching to another subject, and again, I'm way over my technical knowledge here, but if you looked at from where you mark the top to the bottom of the rolls, they're going very far out into the beach. I noticed, well beyond where the bags are located right now, which still, by the way, have your name on them. I noticed. I see each one, so you can't get away from it. It's a,
That's
but
the idea.
it's like it goes from the top to the bottom. You're going almost 25, 30 feet in locations. You know, from the top of the rolls to the bottom. As a layman, that seemed extensive. Why are they going so far out into the beach? Is that, you know, help me understand?
I'm glad you asked the question. There's actually two, and maybe Tim, if Tim could bring that up. The sand on the section, you can see what you're seeing, the cross hatching that goes 25 feet wide is the sand, because we like to bring that down at a very gentle grade, to mimic a 3-to-1 slope, what you would typically see with a coastal dune. So the array you can see is quite a bit shorter than that in section. And is actually landward of where the fiber rolls are now. We have migrated it back.
But they are going out from where the rolls are now. They are going out another 3, 4, 5 feet towards the water, right?
Well, at possibly where the 6 foot, I'm sorry, the 6 high, because it has to be wider to be taller. Because it's at a slope. So in the west end, it may come out, you know, a little bit further. But actually you can see the line of the Coir roll remains, I think, on if Tim could blow that up a little bit, or the plane he's got up there is down by the coast, by the shoreline there.
And something happened every time. It's saying something about the memory, so I apologize.
There, so you can sort of see that line there.
But that's existing core, yeah.
And now we're going landward.
But you're starting landward, but they're ending seaward.
But,
the bottom of those rolls will be seaward of the existing bags right now, according to the markers that were out there.
I believe what's marked out there is probably more or less the edge of that beach nourishment.
Yeah.
So the beach nourishment is definitely seaward.
Right. That I understand, but I'm sorry, perhaps I'm wrong, but I thought I read the signs that specifically say bottom of the core rolls. And that it was clearly seaward of the bags that are there now.
Yeah, it shouldn't. I mean, at the east end, it gets closer because we're connecting, but the remnants of the rolls are shown in that thinner line there, and then as they connect up at the east end, they're more or less aligned. But there may have been some confusion on the flagging. But the sand nourishment would come out further seaward, but we are absolutely retreating the majority of the fiber roll, right?
Again, maybe somebody could go out there and just confirm. Maybe I could be absolutely wrong, Seth, and I apologize if I am. But I thought that the signs that I read there when I walked it this morning had the bottom and the top of the rolls marked, and I thought I saw where the bottom of the rolls were significantly seaward of where I saw the current bags.
Okay.
If that's the case, I can understand why you were doing that. If it's beach nourishment, absolutely no problem with that. So maybe you want to check that and tell me I'm wrong.
Happy to check it.
Thank you. If you'd let Darcy know, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Any more questions from the commissioner? None. 10:18. Any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None. Couple of things, Tim. We need a continuance. I'm looking at September the 17th or October the 1st. Which one do you prefer?
So I'm actually out of the country October the 1st, unless Seth wants to handle it, because I think if he's around. I'm not sure if we continue till next week, which I have no problem continuing until next week, but we might need to continue again if we don't have the DEP number or the natural heritage.
Yeah, our preference would be the 17th. We'll be optimistic and hope that we hear back from both.
Okay, we can do that. And I'm thinking of the following conditions. Number one is the Wilkinson is the third professional on this project. If there's a change of the third professional, a written notification will be needed to be sent to the conservation administrator. And second is submit a construction protocol at least 4 weeks prior to the pre-construction meeting, And third is to schedule a pre-construction meeting with the conservation staff. And fourth is to submit an as-built plan, including the beach profile with some spot grade after the beach nourishments. Would that be?
Oh, and I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, Tom. And I would put in a special condition, the sand veneer above the core logs shall be maintained over time using clean, compatible material. This being an ongoing condition in the certificate of compliance, and that it occur with notification with staff. So that would kind of go along with submitting the as-built plan after the nourishment is done.
Right.
And I also, sorry, I should have gotten this information to you sooner, but I looked at prior filings on the property. We have several that haven't been closed out before. SE 34698, it was going back to 2007. There was 7-year extension. That was dune nourishment and nourishment. SE 35012, that goes back to 2012. Construction, maintain platform, coastal dune, place fiber rolls along dune, restoration, maintain, or maintenance plan. And SE 35321, which is the one I believe this is doing over, dune and beach nourishment. So could we get a special condition that at least the requests for the COCs come in prior to work starting, or did you need to start doing this work right away?
I think we could probably, I haven't looked into all of those. I'm sure the owners will be interested in closing those out. I also know they're anxious to get started. So,
why don't we say, you can submit the COC request prior to the pre-construction meeting?
No, that's even, yeah.
Right.
I mean, would you ever provide like
early.
within 90 days of start of construction or something like that? I mean, I'm sure it won't be an issue. I just would hate to hold it up with the storm season coming up.
That works.
Which one works, Darcy?
What was the one, the 90 days? So
within 90 days of...
Within 90 days of start of work. Yes, that works.
Okay. Within 90 days. Could I have a motion to approve the special conditions that we just talked about?
And a continuance too, Tom, right?
Yes, and the continuance to September the 17th. And we need a signed continuance request from Tim.
Not a problem.
So is this approved, but solely for the NHESP, or?
We are approving this with those conditions and subjects to a continuance, waiting for the SDEP number and the NHSP comments.
Thank you.
So moved.
Tom, given that we're saying within 90 days and they want to start right away, do those numbers close? I mean, within 90 days is what, January? I mean,
no, it's 90 days after they start work. They would be submitting
the COCs.
The COC. So it's 90 days after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was 90 days before, and
no, after 90 days after the start of the construction, the repair work. So with that amendment and clear,
so moved, Tom.
Second.
Anyone second?
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to confirm, next week's meeting's at night, correct? It's a 6:30 meeting?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Good to see everybody. Take care.
Good to see you, Seth.
Great to see you all.
A while.
Yes, too long. I'll try not to go this long next time.
Yes. Our next hearing is September the 17th, which is at 6:30. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Second.
Roll call.
Tangney, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
and Abadili.
aye.
So I got 4:54 p.m.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Stone. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Ed, Kim, and Katie.